So every day I open AoTTG. I spawn in as a normal default Levi and begin the daily grind of mindlessly slaughtering giant naked babies. As I do that, I ask myself, is this ethical? Is this everything AoTTG has to offer to me? And the answer is yes, but it's an answer with many aspects. You see, AoTTG was never meant to be a visually striking masterpiece, nor was it meant to even have a story mode. This game was always all about skill and the mechanics that allow the player to move in never-before-seen ways. The complete three-dimensional freedom and physics logic created an extremely steep learning curve, simultaneously raising the maximum skill ceiling to inhuman levels of hand-eye coordination. To the average player that joined AoTTG, even just the task of flying around without immediately crashing was a Herculean effort. This extraordinarily high skill ceiling cultivated a great number of people that would challenge the game's learning curve, hurdling themselves against the unforgiving physics logic, eventually overcoming it, and starting the grind towards perfection. Within AoTTG, all that have risen above the physics logic have become willing slaves to score numbers. Once you surpass the difficulties of learning to fly without crashing, and after countless of hours understand the game's mechanics, you are left with a question. What's next? I have brought out two examples of many: high damage and racing. The general idea of high damage is big number equals good and small number equals bad. Simple, right? Wrong. You can only do it if you use obscure techniques such as correctional cut, spiral strike, hydra, trad, D-gyro, air equator, etc. Each technique variation requires hours and days worth of grinding just to pull off successfully. And then you begin the process of reaching for the big numbers, repeating the process for hundreds of times, each time improving by a little and adding to the mountain of experience you already have. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Now racing, contrary to any other game mode, favors small numbers above anything. The concept of racing, well, is common knowledge among anyone that has ever gone outside, but that concept is unknown to an AoTTG racer. The top racers are all deranged lunatics that have sacrificed everything just so they could make their little chibi anime character move a little bit faster in a Chinese Spider-Man game. Just look! They're clinically insane! Earlier I mentioned that even getting a general grasp of the physics is a Herculean task on its own, but these individuals took that task and quintupled it. AoTTG racing is done in community-made maps, and in order to competitively race in these maps, first, one must master the self in order to control the unbridled wrath and desire to punch a hole in one's monitor, and second, understand the physics logic on a molecular level and be capable of applying it in superhuman reaction speeds. Of course, AoTTG has a wide selection of casual maps and game modes, such as the City, the Forest, Colossal Titan, Annie Fight, Trust, and Outside the Walls. All of these can be collectively defined as the base of the mountain, of which a player can either attempt to climb like many others before them, or forfeit the challenge of reaching the mountain peak that so many desire to reach. Attack on Titan Tribute game is a unique game among all, with nothing quite like it. A game lacking any graphical qualities, but in turn is bottomlessly rich in challenging gameplay. A game with a skill ceiling on par with games like Dark Souls. A simple tribute game, made in 2013 as a passion project and stood the test of time for almost a decade. Now then, what will you choose? Will you attempt to reach the mountain peak?